For more than 40 years, this was the railhead for Kingsbridge. It's the site of Rangerton Station, opened in 1848, when the main line headed west from Totnes. It was renamed Kingsbridge Road a year later. The former coaching inn here has been turned into housing, and some station buildings still exist at the end of this lane. In 1893, a branch line opened to Kingsbridge, replacing the stagecoach from Rangerton, and the new route left the Great Western Main Line here at Brent. The station buildings were on the right of this shot, with the goods shed and the bay platform for the Kingsbridge trains on the left. Brent Station opened in 1848. There's not much left now to show that there was once a busy junction here. You can see the down platform in this shot, but the cattle pens and the coal yard have gone. The old goods shed has been given a new use. The signal box shut in 1973, 10 years after these closure notices were posted all along the line. The junction for the single-track Kingsbridge branch line was here, where the main line bends round to the left. The route curved to the south, under the old A38 here. After crossing the A38, it went through this cutting near a housing estate at a place called Middle Green. Soon after that, the line crossed a bridge over Pelstone Lane, and the remains of it are still there. There have been at least 2 unsuccessful attempts to build a branch line to Kingsbridge before this line was constructed. The first of those emerged in January 1864. It got parliamentary approval 6 months later. Work started in the summer of 1867 after more money had been raised, but there was little progress and the scheme was abandoned 4 years later. We're now approaching the first station at Avonwick. Here the line passes under the Totnes Road and then over a lane leading to the station around here. The distance from Brent is clearly marked on the stonework of this bridge, 2 miles and 20.5 chains. Avonwick Station is at the end of a downward gradient of 1 in 60 from Brent. It's now a private house, but has many of the original features. This was most likely a plate layer's hut to shelter those who checked the line from here through to Brent. Like all the others on the line, the station was designed by William Clark. It had a single platform and a goods yard, which closed in June 1956, after which the station became an unstaffed halt. There were 2 buildings here which have been joined by the new owners, and they've been here since the 1970s. The building nearest the camera dealt with the freight, while the larger one further away was the booking office, waiting room and toilets. The platform canopy has been restored and is now a conservatory, and there was a camping coach in the yard where tourists could come and spend their holidays. The last train left Avonwick on the 14th of September 1963, and here is a ticket issued in the last week of operation. From here, the railway followed the River Avon 3 miles to the next station at Gara Bridge. There was a level crossing and a signal box here. Gara Bridge was the only passing place on the line. It had 2 platforms, both of which had William Clark designed features. The downside on the right here had the same building arrangement as we saw at Avonwick. Clark was also well known for planting fir trees alongside the track. Again, as at Avonwick, the canopy has been incorporated into the building, which is now a private house. And in the bedroom, the goods shed doors make very useful shutters. The post-war summer service had 6 trains each way on weekdays and 9 return journeys on Saturdays. There were no trains to Kingsbridge on Sundays. A through service to and from Paddington operated on Saturdays only. Outside there were 2 sidings and a cattle pen. Camping coaches were also placed in the yard. This small shed is likely to have been next to a weighbridge to check freight in and out of the yard. And the next building is thought to have been part of the coal yard, and this is the approach road as we go towards the station master's house. Here the branch line crossed the River Avon on this substantial girder bridge, wide enough to carry 3 tracks. There were 48 bridges along the branch line, and it was these and the tunnel at Sawley that led to the construction bill of almost £200,000. This model railway, built by the station's owner, shows what it would have been like in operation. From Gara Bridge, the line continues to follow the River Avon. And as is often the case with old Great Western branch lines, we find lots of examples of Brunel's broad gauge rail chopped up into sections for fencing. The track crossed the river again here before following the valley gently downhill towards the next station at Loddiswell, which was 3.5 miles further on. But before we get to Loddiswell, it's worth stopping off and taking a look at a further river crossing here at Topsham Bridge. Notice the Great Western Railway kissing gate still in place. According to the bridge markers here, we're almost 7 miles from the junction at Brent. There was a level crossing at Topsham Bridge. Here are the gateposts in the hedge. The railway crossed the road diagonally here. The crossing keeper's cottage is now a private house. The line through here was only built when a plan of 1881 was adopted by the Great Western Railway 7 years later. It took 5 years to finish, finally opening in December 1893. As we approach Loddiswell, we see evidence of the cattle dock first. Past the chicken run and we get our first look at the single platform and the station buildings. Loddiswell Station is now a private house, having been sold by British Rail in 1971. It's another William Clark design, with its goods shed and booking office now joined by a modern extension. There was a goods siding here as well, and again a camping coach was installed. This building was probably a plate layer's hut, or it could have been a goods office for the weighbridge. Opinions differ. The only station on the branch line with a signal box was Gara Bridge, but there's one here at Loddiswell now, and it's a popular holiday destination, sleeping 4 people. From Loddiswell, the line climbs up a gradient of 1 in 50 towards Sawley Tunnel, which is 638 yards long. It's now closed and private, but in the past it has been an adventure park and a riding stable. The line runs parallel to this road and then across it. This bridge is still in place. After the summit at Sawley Tunnel, the branch line descends again at 1 in 50 towards Kingsbridge, again crossing the road here. You can see the remains of the bridge. Much of the route into Kingsbridge is now covered by housing. Here the line passes under a footpath. And this is where the old Plymouth Road went over the line. And if you look at the bridge from the new Plymouth Road, you can see it's been turned into a floral display welcoming visitors to the town. When the line was originally planned, it was to run through from here to the coastal resort of Salcombe, 5 miles further south. But it was a step too far. The money simply wasn't there. From here on, the route has disappeared under housing. Kingsbridge station site is now an industrial estate. There were 2 platforms here, an engine shed and a carriage shed, several sidings and a signal box, all of which were demolished in 2009, but the goods shed does remain. And a nearby housing estate's been given an appropriate name. Several artefacts from the line survive. This is a Salcombe trolley used to take luggage from the train to the bus to Salcombe. It's at the South Devon Railway in Buckfastleigh. And that's where these scenes were shot as well. Steam engines like this one worked the line until 1961. This example, 5526, was built in Swindon in 1928 and rescued from the scrapyard in the 1980s. Steam engines were busy on the Kingsbridge branch, especially in the run-up to D-Day in 1944, but after the Second World War, traffic declined. This diesel rail car, also on the South Devon Railway, was one of those that replaced steam for the last 2 years of operation. It was hoped that the branch could remain open as a heritage line, but no deal had been done by the time the demolition men moved in. Preservationists instead turned their attention to the Ashburton branch, which today operates to Buckfastleigh, as we can see here, as the South Devon Railway.